Hello and welcome to your Wednesday evening weirding session. I'm your host, C. Savory, creator of Fractal Praxis. In the background, you may hear the hum of the incubator in my living room. Not a business incubator, not in this instance. An egg incubator for chicks. On the homestead where I live, we practice relationship with the cycles of the year and the seasons and with the earth, and we work to be in right relationship with the ecosystems surrounding us right where we live. We build gardens, we tend chickens, we build soil, we store carbon, and we build community. The hum in the background might as well be the hum of the cosmos or my life. This background hum containing us all. I have no talk today, not one that's scripted, not even a desire to be on camera, just a voice speaking from the void. I started drafting, I had a dozen different threads for a talk this week. But in truth, my energy has not been toward a talk. It's been occupied digesting a much bigger life cycle inside of myself. You see, for a while there lately, I haven't really felt that connected to spirit. I've just been moving through my life from a place more so of habits and familiarity, but not really feeling guided. And then, a couple weeks ago, something began to come up for me, in me, through me. It was a next threshold to the next being that I needed to become, Spirit. In the last couple weeks, as I've worked through this, through my flesh, my bones, my womb, less so words, more so relating deep within and digesting the effects of my interactions without, I've come to an understanding that serves me at this time, that characterizes my development and the person who I am to become at this time. In order to survive and access needs for recognition, for achievement, for relationship in the social world and in the vocational world, I developed a persona, Caroline, who could navigate such worlds. And yet there was another truer version, another truer persona that I developed only in the privacy of the shadows, only where I was unseen and unaccounted for by the world of people, in nature alone, for instance, and in ceremony, private ceremony alone, where I would speak and pray and allow spirit to move me. I've been developing my intuition consciously for over 20 years, and so naturally, this intuition-centered persona would develop. For our purposes, she is known as C. And Caroline kept C hidden. Caroline was governed by fear about whether C would be accepted by the people. After all, she is a mystic, a teller, a seer. And Caroline has learned the hard way how rarely it seems that people are open to seeing their own shadows and the shadows of their societies and personas. So Caroline kept C under wraps, grew her in the moist dark. Voice recordings, extensive journal writings, all kept mostly to herself. Minor bits were eked out, dripped into blogs and journals online that nobody read because she never promoted them. There was a large structure in Caroline enabling resistance to being seen, a deep fear of others' rejection. But at this time, a new epoch arises, a new kairos, if you will. C is to dominate because C is the truest form. C is how she will be known. C is the source of the expression by which the people will be liberated. And finally, C is whole and complete, and there is no fear. And Caroline becomes a subordinate reality, a useful identity for certain social and vocational environments, but not the truth anymore of who she is and is to be known as. And what irony that I would spend such extensive effort crafting a persona to manage myself socially when, and perhaps this is just due to the way the times have shifted too, when now the ulterior self, the alternative self is so much more relevant, so much more essential, and the channel of her voice is like manna, water from a fountain, a spring, to be drunk from and to be healed. I've had to digest some things in my bones and flesh and not my words lately. I've had to go in and heal some deep, buried wound in my womb, in my warmth, and re-inhabit the wham that is the hum of the universe, and locate myself in the softness and the humility of everything being just as it is. No longer shall I sustain the effort it takes to be a less true self for your sake. Now, I'll be a more true self for your sake and for the sake of all beings and in the name of our liberation. To become a true self, to become an even truer, even richer, rawer version of yourself that can be even more medicine for all of your relations. This requires moving through layers and layers of false selves accumulated over the course of our conditioning in our own lifetimes from birth to now, but also in regard to the karma inherited from our parents and their parents, and all of the social conditioning and imprinting that we also inherit from our environments. In the process of forming a self, an ego that allows us to survive and navigate the world, we may emphasize certain facts or truths or perceptions. We may form those into entire identities. But everyone listening to this, on some level, knows what it is like when a story of oneself critically fails. Yes, when a self, a version of yourself that you took to be true and complete in that moment, fails the situation, falls apart at the challenge of a certain edge of reality that the self could not internalize and could not overcome. So everyone here knows on some level what it's like to have a whole world fail upon encounter with the real world, something beyond. And I'm simply someone who learned pretty young that the loss of self, while catastrophic, indeed, and deeply painful, is not the end of the story. That, as a matter of fact, selves are designed to be these resilient structures that can go through massive evolutions to incorporate more truth, more information, and can reform themselves to adapt to the circumstances and to allow the being to continue to be in even more grand, integrated ways. So, when I was a child, I was extremely stressed all the time and profoundly constricted in every aspect of my life. And when I look back at my singing voice and my writings at the time, in my teen years, for instance, it was like only the tiniest, smallest little trickle, little tributary of my life source was able to come through, because it was being squeezed from all sides by the rocks, the gigantic boulders of my self-loathing, of my cynicism, of my just terror that I inhabited all the time. There was this one time when I was 17, I think, 16 maybe, and I was playing a song for my friends and singing. And I was so concentrated on the perfection and the falling short of every note and every word of this song. And I did my very, very, very best. And then when the song was over, my friend said, "That was really beautiful. But do you think you could sing a little louder? You were kind of hard to hear." And I was genuinely astonished at that statement. I said, "What do you mean I was quiet?" I was as loud as I could be. It didn't make any sense to my brain because I really was as loud as I could be. But to my friends, it sounded like the quietest little trickle. And that's because of how much pressure was happening in my system, how many demands I was putting on myself to sing perfectly well. Over the years, I evolved into a capacity to have a louder and louder singing voice. This came not from forcing myself more effectively. It came from freeing myself, gradually, freeing myself to disappoint others, to hit an off note, to not get it quite right, freeing myself into the enjoyment of song as just a pure gift, and ultimately freeing myself into recognizing my voice as a gift given to me by the universe that is for me to give to others. And when others receive my voice, it is simply a gift. And that's it. There's no perfection, there's no attainment, there's no performance even. It's more like channeling. It's more like allowing emotions, tones, pitches, rhythms to move through. And so now I can be extraordinarily loud as a singer, if that's what's called for. But I'm free to inhabit the full spectrum, the full range of what my voice is capable of, and it is a blessing. It is a blessing to come into inhabiting my body, my soul, this voice, this life. And it was absolutely not a given that this would be where I would end up because of where I came from. The very different person I was, that I came from, right? The very different person that I began as and have since consciously and subconsciously developed into. I can no longer even mimic what my singing voice must have been like when I was 17, but I can offer you my voice today, and I invite you to hear the contrast, and in doing so, to really reflect on what it means to transcend worlds and selves that you once were, that are no longer fit, no longer appropriate, no longer adaptive to the world you inhabit. This song was gifted to me, let's say, by a mountain on the Continental Divide that I could see from a vantage point when I was in ritual space at the Healing, Belonging, and Kinning retreat held by Kriti and Bianca in May of 2024 at the Rocky Mountain Eco Dharma Center. I simply think of it as mountain song. Please enjoy. Thank you to the tone of that mountain that shared itself with me standing on that earth in that place at that time. And thank you to all of you who, striving or not, effortful or effortless, share your tone, your voice, your pure, resonant note into the universe for the rest of us to hear and delight in. May you liberate that truer self even more this week. Thank you for witnessing this talk. If you wish to support the work of Fractal Praxis, please make a donation at the link below or become a member at blog.fractalpraxis.com. Hit the subscribe button. In closing, may your liberation resonate throughout all time and all systems. Merry meet and merry part, and merry meet again.